After decades of stagnant growth, Jamaica has an opportunity to turn things around. The new administration, led by Prime Minister Andrew Holness, has set a goal for itself of reaching 5% annual GDP growth by taking full advantage of their world-renowned tourism product, the largest English-speaking workforce in the Caribbean, and their geographic location at the center of the Caribbean, right outside the Panama Canal, which is a key location for international shipping routes, but also in terms of logistics. Our very own Omar Asfari is joining us again at World Investment News headquarters to talk about the future of Jamaica. Omar is a project director for World Investment News who last joined us to discuss our project that we did a few months ago in Tanzania. Well, how's it going?
It's going pretty well. Thank you for having me here.
So, since 2012, Jamaica's growth has been stuck between minus 0.6% and plus 0.8%, but the country has a lot of untapped potential. Can you tell us about how they plan to reach that goal of 5% annual growth?
So you already mentioned Jamaica has been experiencing low growth and high level of debt as well. So by 2012, the debt to GDP was about 145%, but it decreased to a 120% level in 2016, which is pretty good for a country that's been experiencing debt for over 2 decades. So both previous and current government have been working hand in hand with the IMF and the World Bank in order to restructure the debt and find a new plan for Jamaica in order for it to experience growth. So in 2016, we're already seeing a positive forecast for the economy, which is 1.6 to 2% growth, which is the sort of figures Jamaica has never seen in over a decade. So out of all of this, the government has put in place an Economic Growth Council under the Prime Minister's supervision, and Michael Lee Chin, who is a high-profile personality that's got extensive business knowledge about the economies and the opportunities that Jamaica has to offer. So this Economic Growth Council is about uniting the private sectors, the actors of the private sectors, including tourism, energy, construction, BPO's sector, in order to put them all together and to come up with a 5 to 10 year plan that will make Jamaica experience a 5% growth average per year. So per its size and its competitive advantage, Jamaica has a lot to offer. It's a highly sophisticated financial market. It's got a tourism product that is uncomparable around the Caribbean. It also offers a lot of highly educated people that are a main competitive advantage for the country.
So at the moment, Jamaica is the second largest economy in the Caribbean after Trinidad and Tobago. They're also the second largest population after Haiti, but they're the largest English-speaking population for sure. They also have a really key location. They're at the center of the Caribbean, right outside the Panama Canal. So how is the country trying to take advantage of that location, and what will it mean for the future of the country?
So by sitting at the doorway to the newly expanded Panama Canal that you already mentioned, Jamaica wants to position itself to join Rotterdam, Dubai and Singapore as the fourth node in the international logistics chains in the world. This is quite extensive. You probably know by now that Jamaica has got the 7th largest harbor in the world for such a small location. And by being at the door of the Panama Canal and by trying to ease up as well its financial problems with the IMF and the World Bank, Jamaica has planned to create a hub that will involve multimodalities through the integration of world-class seaports, as well as airport, free economic zone, logistics parks, telecommunication and trade facilitation centers, and will probably have a major impact on the economy by creating thousands, if not 10,000s of jobs for the country.
And something that's really important to keep in mind when we're talking about, well, Caribbean countries in general, but Jamaica as well, is that like all Caribbean countries except for Trinidad and Tobago, Jamaica has no oil to speak of. And at the moment, it's importing 100% of its oil, most notably from programs like Venezuela's Petrocaribe, which at the moment is defunded. So they're obviously trying to reduce dependence on fossil fuels with large solar investments, also investments in offshore wind farms. But in the meantime, CARICOM has signed the Caribbean Energy Security Initiative, or CESI, with the US, which is a program that provides natural gas as a means of transition towards cleaner energies. But that's not to say that Jamaica does not have any natural resources of their own. If you speak to Tourism Minister Bartlett, he would list their natural beauty and their welcoming people as natural resources, but at the moment I'm speaking of bauxite, which is the mineral that's used to make aluminum. The challenge is refining bauxite is extremely energy intensive, and at the moment, because of that energy challenge that I just mentioned, the costs of refining bauxite is so high that they can't export it at a competitive price, which is where energy independence, SESI, and these investments in solar and wind energy really come into play to lower the electricity bill and make Jamaican bauxite more competitive. Additionally, and this is the last point on this, is that a byproduct of refining bauxite is something called rare earth minerals, which is used in building smartphones, building tablets, smartwatches, and so these rare earth minerals, which by their name are rare, are going to become increasingly valuable. And at the moment, China is basically controlling that market. They have almost a monopoly on rare earth minerals. But that's something that Jamaica could potentially tap into in the future. It's not as simple as just refine bauxite, get rare earth minerals. It's a bit more complicated than that, but it's definitely worth keeping an eye on. So something to keep in mind as well regarding Jamaica is that even though it's large in the context of the Caribbean, it's a population of 2.8 million. That's roughly the population of Chicago. And so in that context, Jamaica has always been punching way above its weight in terms of culture, in terms of sports, with Bob Marley and the entire reggae scene, and also with Usain Bolt, Shelley and Frazier, the fastest man and woman in the world at the Olympics. Their tourism spots also regularly end up on lists of the world's best beaches. But with the opening of Cuba, that brings its own set of challenges and opportunities. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Well, I want to correct you about Mrs. Fraser. She's not the fastest woman in the world anymore. Ellen Thompson. She's Jamaican as well. She's Jamaican as well, but it's a different one.
Well, there you go then.
You mentioned Cuba, but I want to come back to several other potentialities within the tourism sector, as some things have to be done. The infrastructures, as for the roads in Jamaica, has to be improved in order to facilitate the connection between cities. From Kingston to Ocho Rios, there was a build-up of a toll road that facilitated the traffic between the two cities, but you have also the entire North Coast is waiting for a highway to be built up in order to connect Ocho Rios, Montego Bay and Negril, which will lead to the improved traffic of tourists. As per the tourist attraction that Jamaica could offer, they could offer better attractions in order to enhance the tourist experience within the country, as well as take the full potential, because Jamaica's got a jerk cuisine that is not widely famous. It's just famous when you go to Jamaica. So there's something you can work on, that something recognizable from Jamaica, just to add up to all the brand equity that this country has. Also, you have the sport tourism. We've talked to the Minister of Culture, Babsy Grange, and there are plans of building up sport facilities in order to get youngsters from the US to come and learn about athletics, so like to have a football center that youngsters can come to as a summer trip and do things as such. They need to use this sport brand equity that they have with Usain Bolt and Ellen Thompson, for example, all this athletic that they're using about. They are looking at medical tourism, ecotourism, and they're trying to tap into new markets such as China and India that could be very attractive for Jamaica's tourists. And also, like you mentioned, Cuba as being maybe a threat, but it's more of an opportunity for the country as to create a multi-destination package for the tourists in order to come visit Jamaica for a bit and then get to Cuba and then probably finish in Antigua and Barbuda or as such. That will offer a full package for tourists coming from those countries as far as China or India.
Tourism Minister Edmund Bartlett mentioned that possibility of having multi-destination packages within the Caribbean, which is an interesting opportunity. The other opportunity is, you mentioned China and India as new markets that they're trying to tap into. When we spoke to Transport Minister Michael Henry, he talked about redeveloping an older airport, a military airport, Vernon Field, to have it be one of the largest airports in the Caribbean, the only airport that can have ultra long haul flights landing directly in Jamaica instead of having to go through Miami. That could serve as a hub to other Caribbean islands instead of having to stop every time in Miami and then come back to the Caribbean. The other opportunity that infrastructure opens up is that, yeah, sure, it makes the flow of tourists better, but it also improves the flow of goods within the country. It's not just for tourists, and with that new airport, which will also be a cargo airport, that's going to be crucial. Of course, Jamaica is famous for its accent as well. It's often ranked as the friendliest accent in the world. That's been an asset for the workforce in terms of call centers and business process outsourcing. Related to that is the new education reform that they just put into place. How is that going to impact the next generation of Jamaicans?
So you mentioned BPO. BPOs and call centers are quite important. It's a sector that's been growing at 20% average per year, and you've got about 35 domestics and international company already implemented within such a small market, which is 2.8 million people in the Caribbean. So what they're trying to do, they're mainly trying to operate low-skilled labor call centers that are already implemented and growing big. But what are they trying to implement now are like high-skilled workforce that would be working in BPOs in order for either international companies to be able to outsource legal or accounting or maybe medical services. And the educational reform comes into place and might be tapping on a different market, which could be considered as the South American market, because the Prime Minister Andrew Holness, who previously was the Minister of Education, has put in place, and it's been voted and implemented already for next year, for next school year, is to implement a second language, which will be Spanish, in order to make Jamaica not only the center of the Caribbean, but the center of America, as to become the link between the North American market and the South American market, and to tap into other opportunities.
So that's super interesting because, as the Prime Minister himself said in our interview with him, Jamaica is potentially the crossroads between North and South and Central America. And when you look at the Caribbean, which has an English-speaking set of islands, a Spanish-speaking set of islands, a French-speaking set of islands, if Jamaica is the one bilingual country, that would give it a special status within not just the Caribbean, but the Americas in general. You can find our report on Jamaica in the December and January edition of Harvard Business Review. For more information, you can head to our website at www.wine.com. That's WINE for World Investment News. And you can find our full web report on Jamaica at jamaica.wine.com.
We'd like to thank Mr. Pennycook, the director of the Jamaica Tourist Board. We also would like to thank Michael Leachin, which is the owner of NCB Bank, which is the biggest bank in Jamaica, as well as Gordon Chole, who's the CEO and Managing Director of the Port Authority of Jamaica, and of course Prime Minister Andrew Holness.
You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. We already have an interview with Prime Minister Andrew Holness on our YouTube channel. And we are going to be uploading a series of interviews with other ministers from Jamaica and other countries in the coming weeks and months. So for more video content, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. For World Investment News, I'm Aron.
And I'm Omar Asfari.
Thanks for watching.